what's up? Check out this blunt and honest review from the Jock and Nerd Podcast. That's us. My name is Imran.
My name's Anthony.
He's the jock.
He's the nerd.
And he's the rug boy.
What's up, guys?
Jock and Nerd. Let's get to this week's movie review. It is October. It is the spooky season, as all the stupid reporters on the news call it.
Spoopy.
So it's spoopy season. And this was kind of the jock's pick here.
No, this was Ruggs.
Oh, no, I thought you threw this out first. Anyways, you've seen the title. We'll be reviewing the original Halloween from 1978. Here's spoiler alerts for a 46-year-old movie.
Strap yourselves in, you fucks. Spoiler time.
I thought this was you let's do.
No, this is what happened. I said, let's do some Halloween movies.
Oh, right.
And he thought I meant the movie Halloween.
Oh.
So
I guess you're right.
Yeah, so he's the one who narrowed it down to actually Halloween.
Somebody
I think.
picked something.
Yeah, you're right. Ruggs said we should do something. So to set it up, we didn't know what we were going to do this week. There's nothing new coming out. We were going to default to maybe just do the shows that we talked about. Maybe we were going to do a random movie. And then Ruggs said we should do Halloween themed stuff.
Yeah.
And obviously with the Halloween coming up in a couple weeks. And then I threw out there, let's just review the original Halloween. And we landed on that. What's fun about this movie is, one, we don't do horror movies.
Yep.
So that's a different thing. Two, I don't know anyone's relationship to Halloween or horror movies in general. So I think that's something we'll get into. So this is really a little bit different than what we do. And it's not a stuffy, artsy fartsy film that no one's seen. I think everyone's seen Halloween or heard of Michael Myers. So I'm very curious to get these guys' reactions on this movie because I haven't seen this movie in a bit either. So
I hadn't seen it in years. No, I think it's a great pick because it is a culturally significant movie in the genre of horror pictures.
I mean, you could say it's probably the most culturally significant horror movie ever made.
Yes.
Well, Texas Chainsaw Massacre came before.
Yes, came before, but this movie sets a lot of tropes and trends and things we have seen and everything. It's kind of like the Casablanca of horror movies. Like if you watch Casablanca now,
slasher movies.
Slasher movies. Because if you watch Casablanca, you're like, this whole thing is made of cliches. Here's the thing. That was the first time they did any of that. It wasn't a fucking cliche.
Well, you got to use Psycho 2.
Yeah.
Psycho was out there.
And then there was a movie.
Psycho, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and Black Christmas preceded it. But Halloween's the movie that, like, if you watch the old Texas Chainsaw Massacre, it's kind of it's like a more of like a vibey, like horror, found footage type of movie. This one, like Imran says, like really hones in on final girl, dude in mask,
slasher,
teens,
teen,
punishing like the deviant teens,
sexually active teens being victims. Yeah, this is the beginning of all of it. It's great to watch it the first time.
The era really explodes after this. I mean, you get not only the slasher genre, but then the theming around holidays. You had like Christmas and Valentine's Day and all sorts of bullshit. They were theming movies.
You get more slashers and masks. You get your Freddys and your Jasons, and Poltergeist comes out in the 80s, and just all these horror slasher, specifically slasher. Finally, I mean, you wouldn't have Scream, if it wasn't for this movie.
Nope. Yeah, you're right.
Let me set it up a little bit. The movie first releases October 25th, 1978. So we're close to being almost 46 years ago. The Halloween franchise consists of 13 movies. Yeah. 3 of which of them are called Halloween. 2 of which are called Halloween 2. And you can thank Rob Zombie for most of this. Because he restarted it and then they just restarted it again. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah, they did. Nobody liked his restart.
Yes.
I didn't mind them, but I don't know. I don't remember them that well. I just remember them. They were really twisted. But
on Rotten Tomatoes, out of 85 reviews, the movie's at 96% tomato meter, 89% audience score. But here's the real rating for old movies from back in the day. Roger Ebert gave this movie 4 stars.
Oh, shit.
That's all the endorsement you need. And here's where things get even crazier. This movie is essentially an independent film made for a budget of $325,000. Not million. $325,000. $1,000. That's about a 1.5 million in today's money. It finishes its box office run and makes $70 million.
Oh, shit.
Making it the most profitable independent film of all time still, I believe.
1978?
1978. Isn't that crazy?
Wow.
You get $325,000 and you turn it into $70 million. Good for John Carpenter.
So $70 million, just so we have
what's that in today's money?
What that would be today is that would be a $333, almost a $340 million, $340 million movie.
So that's the equivalent if you spent $1.5 million and you brought home $340 million. It's pretty good. Right. It's pretty good. It's pretty good. The movie directed, scored, and co-written by John Carpenter. I believe it's his third feature. He co-wrote it with the movie's producer and his then-time girlfriend, Deborah Hill. The movie features Jamie Lee Curtis in her debut role. First time as Laurie Strode. You have Donald Pleasance as Dr. Loomis. You got a couple guys playing Mr. Michael Myers. Frank Castle, or Nick Castle, sorry, being one of them. Tony Moran being one of them. Other girls.
Nick Castle, the Punisher.
Yeah, not Frank Castle. Nick Castle. Nancy Keys as one of Laurie's friends, Annie. PJ Souls as the other friend, Linda. And a very young Kyle Richards playing the little girl, Lindsay. I know this. She's famous now. My wife told me she is in Real Housewives. Kyle Richards from Real Housewives was a child actress and is in this movie. And some other people. I don't know. The people aren't important. Bunch of teenagers. Anthony,
yes,
tell us what happens in this R-rated 1 hour 31 movie, sweet runtime.
31 movie?
1 hour 31 minute 31 minute movie. What happens in Halloween?
Oh, Halloween is the story of a child named Michael Myers who murders his sister at the age of 6 years old on Halloween night. Something snaps in this kid and he kills. And he goes to an insane asylum there, locked in there for 15 years, and escapes on Halloween night in 1978 to return to the town that he murdered his sister in, and goes on a murder spree again on the night of Halloween, following a bunch of teenage babysitters.
Just gets obsessed with these babysitters in a Midwestern town.
It's a pretty simple plot, right? I mean, it's just kid turns crazy.
Yeah.
Comes back later as an adult to kill again. I mean, that's really all it is.
Yeah.
So I think where to start though on this is I want to kind of set us all up and get our relationship to things. So before we even get into our Halloween thoughts, I think it'd be good to go around in a triangle because there's three of us.
Triangle
or circle jerk or whatever or a
triangle jerk.
Triangle jerk.
Yeah, triangle jerk or. No, I'm not going to get any more sexual. And what is everyone's relationship to horror movies? I'll start. I don't watch a ton of horror. That said, I've always kind of admired horror movies from afar, and I've always somewhat like low key really liked the slasher or the horror icons. So your Freddy's, your Michaels, your Jasons, your Chucky's. Even back to the Universal monsters, I've always kind of enjoyed that stuff. But I don't necessarily consume horror very often. I don't really care for. I think there's a lot of fun to be had to watch a horror movie with a group, but I don't necessarily care to watch, people get slaughtered and getting scared and all that stuff. So I more admire it, and I'll read synopsises and see stuff, but I don't go out and seek the horror movies.
I'll go next because it's a lot like you. I do not go out to watch horror movies. I am aware of them. The big 3 or 4 that you mentioned, I checked out because of how big they were in pop culture. Your Freddy's, your Jasons. This movie I've seen one time a long time ago. But and if there's anything special, I'll check it out. But it's not like my bag exactly. But I appreciate them, of course, and. I think it may be due to an incident in my childhood. I don't know if I've told this story. When I was 6 years old, my cousins were babysitting me, and they took me to the theater to see Poltergeist. I was 6 years old. I should not have been going to see Poltergeist. That movie fucked me up for a little bit. So I don't know if it has anything to do with that. Bill Simmons Rewatchables just did that episode on Poltergeist. I could talk about that movie. It's fucking great. It's still, I see it in my head. Like I know it very intimately because I was 6. You don't take a 6-year-old to see Poltergeist. But yeah, similar to you, Anthony. Ruggs?
Yeah, we all have, I guess both of us have fucked up cousins because I had an older cousin and her birthday was on Halloween.
Okay.
And it was like 3 cousins that lived in the house, and we would go to their house and for babysitting sometimes. And they would always have horror movies on.
Oh, shit.
And I'm like, and these things fucked me up. And I remember they were watching Halloween. I think it was on TV. It wasn't like it was edited for TV. So there was, but still, like the idea of always walking into a room where people were like, didn't give a shit that I was like watching something that I shouldn't have been watching. That kind of made me averse to horror movies. I was like, at that point, I was like, I didn't want to have nightmares. I was a little kid. I had squeamish at the sight of blood. I didn't like it at all. But then as I got older, all of the guys that I knew that were into the movies were all into horror movies.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, fuck, I got to like build up a tolerance for them. And then once I actually became like desensitized to it, which just sounds really fucked up, like just get used to people getting blown apart, right. You know? I think it was Peter Jackson's movie. What was that one called? Where it was really gross. I forgot what it was called. But
Peter Jackson made a horror movie?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
It's disgusting. It's kind of funny, too. But anyway, yeah, I got desensitized to it. And I started watching them. And then I realized these movies are stupid a lot of the time. There's a lot of stupidity in these movies. That's
the thing is people make dumb decisions. Like, don't go down. Don't go that door. Don't go down.
So it's tropey. It's too super tropey.
Dead Alive is what you're talking about?
Yeah, Dead Alive. It's super tropey. And you got to throw like complete logic out the window. And you kind of see things kind of happen all the time. The same things happen over and over again. So, you know, I don't really like to watch horror unless it, and then like, don't let me get started on the Hellraiser movies and all that.
Oh yeah, you got Pinhead and all that shit.
Yeah, it just gets really fucking, it's not something I like. Too much gore and glorifying of like really disgusting kills and shit like that. But anyway, yeah, I never liked horror movies. But then since I like sci-fi and I like monsters, which is weird, monsters, and I don't associate them as the same thing.
Right.
I feel like Frankenstein is more of a sci-fi movie with horror elements in it.
Sure.
Dracula is more of a supernatural beast. It's almost like I'm learning about like some sci-fi comic booky thing. It's more comic booky in a way.
Yeah.
But horror is just like a lot of the times, especially these slashers and serial killer movies and things like that of that nature. I really can't. I didn't really gravitate towards, but I've developed a tolerance for them, and I've watched a few recently, and was able to be entertained by them. So I don't know. Maybe I'm starting to come out a little bit, get more into them as I get older. Not really into them, but like have more of a tolerance.
Well, the thing about horror, and someone put this on YouTube, and I thought it was great, was they were basically saying horror and action. So if you enjoy action, it's not necessarily that you're going to enjoy horror.
Yeah.
But the feeling you get is somewhat the same in that it's all about adrenaline. So action is about getting your heart pumping to see someone, see people get fucked up in a good way.
Yeah.
But horror is your heart pumping to see people get fucked up, but you don't want to see them get fucked up. Or maybe you do and you're just kind of sadistic.
Look, what I think as humans, we kind of enjoy being scared, right? What do? We go on roller coasters. We go to haunted houses. You like that.
Right.
You have the same effect and you nervously giggle.
Horror's all adrenaline.
Yeah. And like people respond to it differently. Like some of these things I would giggle at. It's that, I don't know if it was the scare or just what they were doing. But it gives you that same jolt. Absolutely.
There is some kind of artistry. I mean, because they do have creature effects in a lot of these films. Sure. You have to have like Jason has the makeup and Freddy Krueger's got the makeup, and they have their little They have their little personality, the little weapon of choice, all that stuff. And it gets very comic booky. All right. Like I could see Jason being a character in a comic book or Freddy being a comic book character. At a certain point, these things start to bleed into each other, which pun not intended, but whatever. They start to sci-fi, comic books, horror. They all start to bleed together.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And I don't know. It's like I'm not too squeamish on them anymore. And I've heard from many people who are really into film. They feel like it's the low budget entry point for directors, right?
Sure.
So most horror films don't cost a lot to make because it's all about how you shoot and build the tension, not necessarily effects. Mm-hmm. It's like you could buy a bucket of blood,
This movie proves it that you don't need money to have good scares. It's all how you set it.
Blair Witch Project.
Yeah. Even though that one pissed me off at the end, but it does similar things.
Well, I think the next question, though, to lead with before we go into initial opening thoughts is, what's your relationship to the Halloween films? And again, I'll start. I haven't seen all the Halloween films. I've seen a few. I do remember as a young boy getting introduced to Michael Myers and Jason and Freddy Krueger and all those movies where you'd walk through the horror aisle and see all those faces on the VHSs.
Yeah.
And I got intrigued and I was like, this is kind of interesting. I watched the original Halloween with my mom. I think I was probably 10 years old, and most of the movie I was sitting behind her, and she was also covering her eyes.
Oh, wow.
But I haven't seen all the Halloween films. I've seen maybe a couple here or there. I have no desire to watch them all. That said, I vividly remember as a kid growing up, and every Halloween on AMC, they would do a Halloween marathon, and I'd turn it on and watch a few minutes of it until I couldn't handle it anymore, and I would turn it off. Of the horror icons, I really do enjoy the lore behind Michael Myers, which we'll get into a little bit here. But yeah, that's where I'm at on Halloween movies. Have you guys seen all of them?
I don't think I've seen all of the 70s ones or the sequels to the original. I've seen the reboot. I see H2O. Yeah. I've seen the Rob Zombie reboot.
I heard H2O is pretty good.
And I think that's it. Okay. I think I've seen only those two. I might have seen Halloween 2 and 3, but I don't remember seeing them.
I've seen Halloween 2.
So
Halloween 3, for what it's worth, is not about Michael Myers.
So there's Halloween, Halloween 2, Halloween 3, Season of the Witch, Halloween 4, The Return of Michael Myers, Halloween 5, The Revenge of Michael Myers, Halloween, The Curse of Michael Myers, Halloween H2O, 20 years later, Halloween Resurrection, then another Halloween.
Busta Rhymes.
And then Rob Zombie starts again, Halloween 2, and then the other people come back and start again, Halloween Kills, Halloween Ends. Last one coming out just 2 years ago.
Right.
With Jamie Lee Curtis.
How many have you seen?
I have only seen one Halloween movie. And even, yes, and even this. So I was aware of Mike Myers. Again, Mike Myers, Freddy Krueger, Jason, you are aware of these big three if you follow pop culture.
Yeah, baby.
Both Mike Myers you're aware of. So, and this movie, I'd seen, I can't remember I saw it when I was a teenager a long time ago. So it was kind of like, again, watching this again for the first time, but you remember certain things and just iconic things. And The Mask is iconic.
I've seen this movie more than a few times,
okay.
the original. Well, let's start there. Imran, since you're now hosting, opening thoughts on Halloween 1978. Revisiting. Did you rewatch it recently?
Yeah.
Obviously.
Yeah. By the way, it's you can watch for free on Crackle. If you don't want to pay for it, I found it on Crackle.
Snap, Crackle, and Pop.
Crackle, and Pop. And I, watching this again, I really like this movie. I appreciate what he does, how he builds tension with a very low budget. It's all, the use of foreground of Mike Myers in the foreground, in the background. Every time he would pop up where she would see him across the street, it made me giggle. And I don't know if I was giggling out of fear. I was like, there he is. And then, it's just really well. The tension is ratcheted up really well. It's a great backstory, and I have a couple of issues with the movie. It's not perfect. It gets a little weird at the end. But overall, I was like, wow, this is like, you see where everything started in this movie, and you just have to put yourself back in that time. And I know I read some articles where people were fucking screaming, just losing their shit at certain parts of this movies. And I was like, man, I can imagine watching this for the first time. You really didn't see something like this.
Yeah, you always have to put yourself back at when it was released, and if people were primed for this, if this was a common thing so this is an uncommon film. It was like unique for its time. As we talked about, there were some predecessors before it, but like this kind of created this genre in a way, the slasher genre. Mm-hmm. And it's very effective. So I could imagine in its time, the reaction was crazy.
What were your opening thoughts or initial thoughts after rewatching it, Ruggs?
I had not watched it in its entirety in a long time. I've seen bits and pieces of it a lot throughout my life, but never just sat down and watched it from the beginning. I think a lot of the times I've seen it, it's been on broadcast, so it was edited. So I was the boobs that were in this movie and all that nudity.
Yeah, starts out with
I was like, oh, I didn't know this was a booby movie.
Yeah,
and
it's legit.
Yeah, rug boobs. So I don't even know what to say. I just feel like the most effective thing. There's two things that really were really something that stood out to me was the POV shot.
Yes,
through the mask.
Yeah.
And kind of in the breathing and everything, that really added a lot of tension. And just the idea, right, that someone's just going to come into your house and kill you. And that's a real fear. And
not only that, in a suburban area.
In a nice
maybe you lock your fucking doors, you assholes. How about try that? Nobody locked their doors. Nobody even closed the fucking door in this movie. I was like, what are you doing? Close the door behind you. No.
But yeah, I think that fear is like a real fear. And so that preys on that fear and the tension that you get even after the movie's over. You still feel like, oh, I should probably lock the door.
Yeah.
I should probably go and lock that door. So it does play on real things. And I think that's why it's effective. I think there are some effective ways of using like the stalking.
Yeah.
And the music is sometimes over a little bit much.
It's iconic music, though.
I think it's a little bit too much music sometimes.
It punches in real loud sometimes all of a sudden.
But I think it's very effective in setting the mood and setting the tone and making it unique. And it's got a lot going for it.
Yeah.
I feel like it still works.
Oh, yeah, we'll get into that.
Okay.
We'll put a pin in that thought. We'll get into that thought in a little bit, but I want to get into my opening thoughts. So I've seen this movie several times, but it's been a while since I've sat down and watched it. And I was very curious to watch this movie and go, would I still like this movie, or would I still think it's effective? One of the things, first off, was this movie, when it was made, it was literally just, hey, we need a movie on Halloween. Yeah. That was it.
Yeah.
There was no script or anything. Yeah. They had Deborah Hill and Carpenter had to put their heads together and figure this out. I think this movie overall, while it is in some cases a little bit dated, it is at times you have some questionable acting, questionable decision making. I think at its core, this movie is all about vibes. This movie's vibes are off the charts. Like Carpenter and the cinematographer and the music, everyone that's involved do a really good job of taking something very simple and just fucking directing the hell out of it with the breathing and the music and the lighting, the POV shots and the lighting. And I mean, there's some just gorgeous stuff. Yeah. And I mean, the way they just ratchet up the tension and then him appearing and then not appearing. What this movie does really well too is it's unencumbered by all the lore that comes after it, all the bullshit,
right? With
like him chasing Laurie because it's his long lost sister.
Yeah, why did they do that?
All that stuff? It's all not there. It's just psychopath kid. A switch flips. He becomes evil, He comes back to town, starts stalking the first people he sees, and starts killing them. Yeah. And there's none of this like bullshit other stuff that we get into with the later Halloween films with like cults and all this shit. It's just this guy comes back, and we don't, and they toe the line, right? Where it's like, he's evil, he's a real person, but they might have some supernatural shit going on. We don't really know. Like they toe that line where it's like, it could be real.
Yeah.
But it's also, he's a fucking Undertaker, and he keeps sitting like, is it like how real? What part of this is of him is he's the incarnate devil? What part of this is he's just a fucking tank human?
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
So they it's very simple, but like they execute all that shit so well that you get over the fact that the fucking girls act horribly, and that Laurie Strode sits there and like fucking moans and cries while Michael's sitting there dead. Like, just fucking get out of the house, right? Like, there's a lot of stupid shit that are dumb tropes that less good directors take, and they make these tropes for the rest of the 80s.
Yeah.
But what they don't nail, that this movie nails, is all the fucking vibes, and as the kids say, all the aura that Michael Myers has in this movie, because it's just fucking, I mean, there's the scene where the girl's in the fucking garage.
Yes. The first time. She's gonna die. Yeah.
Well, the first time, right, where she locks herself in the laundry room.
Yes,
time, you're like, oh fuck, she's fucked there.
Yeah,
no, you see him like stalking her,
tease you,
and then like when she comes back to the garage, and the first time she can't open the door, but then the next time she gets the keys and the door's unlocked.
Yes, the door's already unlocked. You're like, wait a minute.
And then she gets in and she sees that it's foggy. She's like, fuck, and then the fucking thing. Yeah. Like, they do such things where he's meticulous in how he stalks them, and then like you see, you know, the iconic scene where he stabs the guy through the fucking body and hangs him. Like, first off, it doesn't make any sense,
how is
right?
that
like
holding him up there was my question.
No, but this part where he hangs him and then he looks at him and he tilts his head like, what the fuck did I just do there? And you just fucking like the psychology of it. So it's just, it's like, it's fucking real. It feels real.
Yeah.
So I think that the way as Ruggs would say, the verisimilitude of it, you feel that shit. You fucking feel like this could have fucking happened. This could have been somewhere. This could have been any suburban neighborhood. This is possible.
Yeah, it's fairly grounded. You didn't see this in movies. You know, usually this kind of horrors would there be in the city. Right. But and there's usually like the horror movies from like if you compare like the Universal monsters, like there's all this like lore, right? Yeah. And there's no lore here. It's just, I mean, you have Dr. Loomis telling you how, and it works. Oh, like every little piece he drops, you're like, this guy's great. So it's
blackest eyes. I mean, you could the quotes that Dr. Loomis has, Donald Pleasance. Yeah, those could be like framed anywhere. Yeah. Like as far like best quotes in a movie.
It's grounded until the end where you start to question it. Perfect blend, and he achieves this tension, this horror, these scares with virtually very little blood and gore.
No blood.
It's amazing.
That's another thing too.
It's amazing. It's bloodless, but it works.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, that's another thing too, is that you go into this movie, and if you're like watching it now as I don't know what generation this is now, but if you go in with the modern expectation of what horror is now, you're gonna be severely disappointed.
Yeah, you're gonna be like, what the fuck?
No blood. Yeah, there's barely any blood in this fucking movie at all.
Yeah, it's surprising.
Yeah, I feel like there are some moments that kind of they happen with a little bit not enough fanfare, and that's because I've been trained on other horror movies,
right?
Mm-hmm. You know, like when you get the jump scare, you hear that note that they play, like that, you know, or to kind of amp it up even more. But like they kind of do it without that stuff because that stuff hasn't become a trope yet, I guess.
Yeah.
So you're expecting some of those things to happen, and then they don't. So yeah, some of these modern horror people will walk into it thinking, "Oh, that could have been more effective here and there," but I think it's still pretty effective.
There's a bunch of things that it creates or redefines in these horror slasher movie tropes, like we mentioned, the point of view shots you never saw, and they're so effective. The trope,
the breathing,
the trope that sexually active teens always die, and the one girl who doesn't have sex survives.
You could kind of go into the psychology of Michael Myers. He's a little kid.
He sees his sister banging.
Sister probably for the first time doing this with a guy, and it makes him feel uncomfortable. He wants it to stop.
Did you notice that he banged his sister in like 1 minute? Like the whole tracking shot when they go up, and then when he leaves, it's like 60 seconds, and he's already like done. He's walking out the door. I was like, that's very quick. I think the nudity also. He started the trope of like these horror movies got to have boobies.
Well, I think that nudity though, that I think Ruggs is onto something there, where I don't think it was him necessarily punish it, where later on it's like the deviant people die first.
Right.
It's not that he's punishing them. It's just, I think that this whole sister thing where it reminds him again of his sister and what that night, because you see he recreates her grave with one of the kills.
Yeah, he takes the grave, puts it on the bed, and Annie is there. And yeah, he's a little kid who his sister would rather bang a dude instead of watch him. It fucked him up. That whole opening shot.
I don't even know if it's that. I think it's just the way I read it is he just snapped one night because he was a completely normal kid, and then all of a sudden the devil got a hold of him or some shit. Like, we don't know. I think that's part of why this movie makes an impact on you, is it's just like this kid, all of a sudden something snapped in him.
Now, the only thing that I didn't get that I found to be weird was when the psychiatrist and the nurse are going to the sanitarium.
Yeah. It's raining.
And it's like everybody's broken out.
Yes.
We don't know anything about what happened.
No, they don't explain.
They never talk about it again.
Yeah. And
I guess Mike Myers busted out.
Did he orchestrate this?
Well, that's a thing. Like, I think it is kind of it's not written out why that happened, right?
Yeah.
So on the surface, I think it's kind of like, how does that even happen? Like, how is this possible?
Right.
But I think the scene is done really well because they're driving, right?
Yeah.
You see it's 1978. It's a dark night.
Yeah.
And they're pulling up and they're talking about Mike Myers.
Yeah.
And then fucking the way it's shot, though, is you see a flash of lightning and then you see all these fucking white dudes
walking around like,
oh, fuck.
Yes.
You know, right there, you're like,
oh, shit.
This shit's fucking turning sideways right away.
Yeah.
But there's a mix of that stuff, right? So I think on that note, like, you have that scene and then you have stupid stuff. Like, how the fuck is Mike Myers able to drive a car?
That was my question. He's been locked away for 10 years.
Well, they talked about it. There was a line in there about it.
He said something like maybe somebody taught him out here how to drive.
Maybe someone taught him how to drive.
I was like, wow, how does he know how to drive?
That doesn't like,
it doesn't matter.
Necessarily track because you Donald Pleasance is like, this kid's basically like staring into the wall, like not interacting with people. He's a mute. He's like, doesn't do shit.
Yeah.
He's staring past you. So how am I to believe this kid that like doesn't interact with people, someone would take him into a car and he'd just sit there and learn?
And he's driving that car like he stole it.
Oh yeah. He knows how to drive. He's driving real well. He knows how to slow down.
I mean, he's cruising the whole neighborhood.
He's stalking them. Yeah, he's cruising. He's cruising in that station wagon for sure.
So there's definitely like a mix of stupid shit in there.
Here's some more stupid shit trope. There's no parents anywhere.
That?
The whole there's no parents anywhere. No authority. Like
apparently Halloween night, all parents
they
go
just
out.
leave.
That's true.
I also
enjoy, well, on the stupid note, I mean, while the scenes are effective with him, like they're definitely, I think they're super effective with him staring at them through windows and like you see him, but the way he moves.
Yeah.
Like if she looks away and then he moves away, now like within seconds, he's like
gone.
Immediately gone. Or the car is gone. Like it's like, how the fuck did that happen?
You didn't hear it drive away or anything.
It's magic.
It's magic. It's Halloween Mike Myers evil magic. So I read John Carpenter told Nick Castle, the guy who played Mike Myers mostly in this movie, essentially not to act, except for the only direction he gave him was that head tilt scene. But because of this, you get that amazing stalker slasher walk, to the person, slow, methodical. Now, Nick Castle, incidentally, this is his only acting role. He goes on to be a movie director. He directs The Last Starfighter in the 80s, Dennis the Menace, and Major Payne in the 90s.
Wow.
Yeah, it's kind of a weird thing for Nick. And then we see his face for a second at the end there where the mask comes off.
That's not Nick Castle.
That's somebody else. Yeah. And then there was a third guy for stunts or something.
Well, they like him, the walk, everything. I think it all adds to the vibe. And I think if we're even psychoanalyzing him, it's not like he's this killer that gets excited about he's just kind of doing it. Like it's just part of his nature now.
Yeah.
He's just killing to kill. So when he's stalking them, it's not like he's getting this thrill and he has to chase them to kill them faster.
No, like you never see, like he's established the thing where you never see the slasher guy run, right? You know, it's bad when the guy's just walking towards you to kill you. And he stalks the little kid with the pumpkin for a second. I don't know if he has a code why he got obsessed with Lori just because she drops the keys and he sees her
Well,
first.
I think she's the first person he sees at when he's at his own house.
Yeah, and then he's just obsessed.
Well, they even had good tension with the kids and the boogeyman and the kids seeing him.
Yeah, the boogeyman established.
The kids, the Tommy Doyle sees fucking Annie.
Yeah.
Is it Annie?
Yeah.
Being carried all around the house. Guys, and she's screaming. He's screaming about it. So they just keep ratcheting it up, the tension. I think it's all done really well.
And then you're not even, and then like Lori thinks she's crazy because she's seeing things and he disappears and they have some fun with that. But it just establishes this unkillable being by the end that you
like he gets shot like 5 times.
He gets shot 6 times. Doesn't like several. He goes through several deaths.
But even that ending.
Yeah,
I think while it was used to create multiple sequels, right? It now would be looked at as, hey, that's a setup for another movie, right?
Right. But
I think what's awesome about that ending is it's actually the perfect ending for that movie.
Yeah, it almost works as just a standalone. If this was a one and
you
done,
could just leave it as that movie and you go, fuck, that's haunting, right?
It ends with his body disappeared. He is not dead. He is unkillable. Is he supernatural? We know he's strong.
In the credits, he's listed as the Shape, right?
Yes.
Shape.
Yeah. So, oh my God, so many things to talk about. Let's, I just want to say that, break down a couple of these beats. The opening music is great. That whole opening tracking shot is so fantastic and is so iconic. The point of view, it's like one take. You see through the
It's
masks.
fantastic. I will point out one flaw, though. When he kills her, the girl that's doing the acting, like, oh, Michael, oh my God.
What are you doing?
I think the actresses are terrible in their death scenes.
Yeah.
The one in the car, her crossed eyes.
Yeah.
Yeah, when she
God.
she crosses the
I
eyes.
didn't even
and,
notice that. She crosses her eyes to pretend
and she slumps up against the mirror like
I also thought in the beginning the camera seems a little bit high to be a 6-year-old, but whatever.
Oh, okay.
But then when they come back and they reveal this kid and this slow shot back, and it's just this kid in this costume, you're like, what the fuck?
Michael,
great. And like the parents are just standing there. I'm like, there's a dead body up there. You probably should do something about it. But yes, we get to the whole asylum.
But that's a great opening.
Yeah. Yes.
That's a great setup for a movie.
Great setup.
This fucking kid killed his sister. What happened?
Iconic. Yes. And we get to the whole, escape mental patients. And there's a lot of fun, like errors you'll notice or things you catch because it was low budget. Like in the beginning when he's on top of the car and he smashes the window with his palm. If you pause it, you can see clearly there is a wrench strapped to his hand.
Oh, nice.
To impact the glass. And then we establish Lori and the teenagers. And again, there's some palm trees in the background. It's supposed to be in the Midwest. It's in Cali. Open air high school. It's not really Midwest, right?
It's filmed in Cali.
Yeah, it's filmed in Cali. But this whole part where he's just stalking these people, and sometimes he's in the foreground, sometimes he's in the background. She sees him throughout the day. It's fucking fantastic.
There is one shitty shot where they're trying to go for something cool where he's in the car and it's supposed to be a POV shot.
Oh yeah,
he's stalking them.
Yeah,
but the POV's from the back seat.
Yeah, the cameraman is in the back seat of the car. Yes,
so it's like who's driving Michael right now?
It's a disembodied Michael POV shot. I do love the 70s of it, and the girl going totally so many times took me right back. You got scary phone calls. I don't know if they ever did that before in a movie. I feel like that
Black Christmas they did that.
Oh,
too.
they did that in Black Christmas.
Yeah.
And then it's all about
Black Christmas and that original Hitchcock movie, the Stranger in a Room, or like what was it called? Remember that? You know what I'm talking about, right?
Not Rear Window. Rear Window?
Yeah.
Where the guy
that's the one, right? Where the guy's stuck in a room with somebody.
Yes, and he's looking across and he sees things.
Yeah.
But yeah, just the low.
Or When a Stranger Calls.
When a Stranger, maybe.
Yeah. When a Stranger Calls.
I love. So then, originally they wanted to call this the babysitting murders, and they established these kids babysitting.
When a Stranger Calls was from 1979, so a year after. That was someone in the house with the babies.
See, they did it first over here with the scary phone calls. I was like,
it was part of the thing, yeah.
I like when they smoke weed in these old timey movies. Like, that was great.
I like that the girls are horny.
Oh yeah, they just want to bang.
They're as horny as the guys? How about if not more horny?
The fact that Linda and Bob are just going to like random families' houses to fuck and smoke and drink their beer. Like, what if these people come home? I didn't understand. Is this how life was back in '78? I was like, this ain't even your house. The babysitter's not there. They're just fucking. Let's go up in the bedroom and fuck.
Oh. One of the things is they're both in the car smoking weed, and they pull up to their cop dad.
Yeah, why would you stop?
Open the window?
Why do you even have to stop to talk to him at that point? Just drive by.
But the cop, who's a cop, doesn't notice that his daughter's car just streaks of weed now.
Well, weed didn't smell like weed in 1978.
Oh, it smelled worse. That was some dank shit back then. He didn't have the good shit. But this whole scene brilliantly has Mike following them in the station wagon behind them.
You can see it.
You see him. They don't notice. Even when Dr. Loomis comes to see the sheriff, you see him in the station wagon turning the corner in the street behind him. He's always like a presence, right? They built that up. That combined with Loomis giving you details every time, you're like, this is fucking crazy. There
is some like, what kind of psychiatrist is Dr. Loomis?
He's like the worst.
Loomis is like, this isn't a man. No, remember, they go in the house. So they finally find his house. They find a dead dog. And the sheriff is like, no man would do this. And he's like, this isn't a man.
Oh, that's a fucked up line, though, where he goes, oh, he looks like he got hungry.
Yes.
Like, he ate a dog.
And then Loomis is like, I'm going to hide in these bushes outside and wait for him. Really, bro? You know, you're standing out in the light and next to a bush.
Well, Loomis is also like, the cops are going, should we re-alert everyone? And he goes, no, don't. it'll make the town nuts. Everyone will start looking for him. He's like, wait, what?
That's what you want?
Don't you want that to happen?
Here's my question. If you were Lori, at what point do you call the police and not go and investigate this shit yourself? Is it when you keep seeing this guy? At some point, I would think you would maybe call the authorities.
The friend's dad is a cop.
Yeah.
And you gotta be like, hey, there's a fucking guy following me in a mask.
Yes, they do. She never tells him. They don't do anything.
That's also some stupid ass shit.
Yeah.
I will say though, speaking of dogs, that scene where the dog is barking in the kitchen.
Yeah, and then he kills the dog.
Like, oh fuck. Like you can already tell, like, oh shit. Like to this day, if I'm with a dog at night and the dog starts barking and I'm in a house alone, I'm like, fuck, someone's out there.
Oh yeah.
And
the last thing you want to hear is the dog go, "Beep, beep, beep." You're like, oh shit.
Yeah, it's a scene where the dog just goes limp in his hands. It's like, oh fuck.
Here's another issue I had a little bit with Mike Myers' abilities. Let's say we've seen him have a couple of good kills, right? He kills the mechanic. We don't see that, but he's wearing the jumpsuit.
Right.
He kills the dog. He kills Bob stuck to the wall. Fantastic. He kills the girlfriend Linda with the phone cord. So he's got 4.
You can hear her die. You hear her die on the phone. That's Lori hears that.
That's when she walks over there, and I'm like, don't fucking go over there. What are you doing? Anyways, Mike has 4 good kills, 5 if you count the dog. But he is so verklempt over Laurie Strode that it affects his aim when he tries to kill her. He is wildly missing when he's getting poked in the eye.
His plot armor.
He cuts her in the arm, tears her coat. And when he pops up from behind the sofa, she's right there, and he stabs the sofa cushion. I'm like, Mike, what are you doing, bro? How she's right there.
Plot armor.
Well, those are. I mean, it is stupid, but there are some like really iconic things, like the first part where she discovers all the dead bodies.
Oh, yeah, in the same room.
She's cowered up against the doorway crying, and you just slowly through the black see his face pop up.
That shot is fantastic.
Like, fuck.
That shot is fantastic.
That's a fantastic shot. The one where she thinks she stabbed him. Well, the closet scene's great.
Yeah.
Where she's stuck in the closet and he's like rattling the door.
Yeah.
But then the one where after she stabs him
with the knitting needle,
like he pops up.
Well, yeah, where he sits up like fucking Undertaker.
Yes.
And there's no music, and he just slowly sits up. You're like, oh, dude, fuck.
I believe this is the scene. I read a lot of interviews where people were just losing their shit. When he sits up, people were screaming.
I think there's a YouTube video of like the sound of people like reacting to that.
And it's fantastic. And like watching it now.
Because there's no music.
Right.
He just sits up and you're like, oh, fuck.
You kind of expect it. You know it's going to happen. But again, like the first Alien movie, watching it for the first time.
False endings. There's a few false endings.
He's got 2 fake out deaths. When he just sits up, I would have lost my shit like people did. It's fantastic. Fantastic framing. And then he really slowly walks towards her. You know, he's not in a rush with any of this. And that's when he strangles her. Loomis finally shows up, shoots him 5 times. He falls over the balcony. That shit is edited all weird because if you watch, he's actually falling forward. And then they cut to him falling backward off of the thing. But whatever. It was 1978. He had like $20
it's
this movie.
And the perfect ending in terms of like the whole arc where it's not a happy ending. Like he's still out there, and we don't know if it. Again, it leaves it ambiguous, right? Is he supernatural?
It makes the movie more scary, for sure.
Yeah. Is he supernatural? Is he just a fucking tank and he just got up and he's gonna die? Like we don't know.
You have a final girl that's not a damsel in distress, right? She's fighting back. She survives.
Right.
And she kind of injures him really badly too. She gets a couple of good ones in, but the amount of times they made her think she was safe and she wasn't safe is fantastic. Like
what does she do? She pokes him in the eye, and then what else does she do?
She takes a knitting needle first
to the neck,
first
into the neck.
Yeah.
Then a hanger to the eye,
and then
a knife to the chest.
Yeah. And I was like, keep stabbing him. I was like, keep stabbing him. Why'd you just stab him once? What the fuck? Damn this motherfucker. And then I was like, but the other funny thing is when she finds the bodies first, right? She goes over to the side and then that cabinet door just opens for no reason with her friend in there. I always love when they do that kind of thing. I was like, why did that open?
I mean, that whole scene is ridiculous. Yeah. Like him, where did he store the grave?
I was hanging.
Headstone?
I don't know.
Then
he took it.
How does he have time to hang the dude?
Yes.
How did he
release him? Time to release him?
How did he release him? Time to release, and then also know that she'd be standing there to open the closet.
Why did that closet door? Yeah, why did that open?
That's his art. That's what he's
the master of Rube Goldberg devices in the background. Is what it is. He's got little pulleys and ropes that he's attached. I guess.
All right. Here's the question. I mean, it sounds to me like we're all there's stupid shit, but there's also vibey shit. Does it hold up?
I think
if you were to watch this for the first time or have a friend watch this for the first time, does it hold up?
I think that there is something primal in it that affects my fear reaction.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the fact that it could be real, this could happen. Like a guy could just break into your house and stab you, and people are psychotic. There's people getting stabbed in New York City right now as we speak. So this shit happens.
Wearing Michael Myers mask,
probably,
probably, or like COVID masks, whatever. It tugs at something that's really real. Like I think Jaws does the same thing.
Yeah,
it tugs at something really.
Jaws is kind of a horror movie.
It is a horror movie, of course.
Yeah.
So it does.
And it's a sci-fi movie.
Hits that primal fear, and I think that it does it very effectively. And for not a lot of money, this guy was able to produce this overall effective fear movie, and it still holds up. I think it still got me to react in that way and think about it in kind of like a horrific way for a few hours afterwards.
Yeah,
even talking about it now, I'm still kind of scared of those feelings that I was feeling.
I think it absolutely holds up still to me. I would say.
Well, I agree. I think it holds up. I mean, we do have modern expectations of horror.
Yeah,
but I think the fact that it's so simple in its premise and it's set in the 70s adds to the lore. And I knew my answer to this question during the scene where Annie gets stuck in the laundry room and then gets stuck in the garage.
Yeah.
And that whole tension of her, like, even I knew what was going to happen. Her getting in the car, I'm like, fuck, don't get in that goddamn car. Oh, fuck, that door's unlocked. Oh, you're in there. Oh, there's fog on the window. And then when she dies, I'm like, oh, fuck. Like, I knew it was going to happen. And I wouldn't say I was scared, but I felt the tension of that scene. And then later on when Laurie goes into the goddamn house, I'm like, no.
That scene where she's walking over and they're cutting from her, you're seeing her, and then you're seeing her point of view, and it's going back and forth, and you're like, dude, what the fuck? Don't go over there. What the fuck are you doing? She's the only one that locked the door.
That camera work throughout the movie is
it's the whole thing.
Really adds to it.
Yeah.
Because you're right. They're like the cuts between her point of view, and then you're like, it makes you feel like you're goddamn there. Yeah. And you're like, God, I don't want to be here. This is the worst thing in the world. Even though it's just a fucking dark house, you're like, this is not where I want to be right now.
Yeah.
So yeah, I also agree it holds up. Maybe not, there's not obviously the modern gore, but I think that also adds to the simplicity and the lore of this movie.
Yeah, we've experienced so many horror movies, and we're trained to think like jump scares should be this way and moments in movies should be that way. So we bring a lot of that baggage when we watch these movies, especially the older ones. And we have to remember the place and time where they came out.
Yep.
And was there anything that was kind of this vibey or this kind of visceral, tugging at all these different things, like people stalking you, people, all this stuff was in the air at the time. So
I mean, I don't think audiences
imagine how effective it was.
Audiences were screaming, and they don't scream again until Alien comes out the next year. Like this was a unique experience. Yeah.
You've got a bunch of. I know you got a bunch of things.
I got some good shit about this movie.
Go for it.
First of all, the poster is iconic. You guys know the poster, right? It's Mike Myers' hand with the knife and the pumpkin. Now, if you look closely in his knuckles, there's kind of a screaming face that you can make out. And apparently this was unintentional by the poster artist, but it looks like there's a face in his knuckles. It's very good. John Carpenter.
That opening, by the way, too, with just the
jack-o'-lantern.
Yes.
The jack-o'-lantern, yeah.
Just the simple push in to the jack-o'-lantern's eye is so effective.
And then the light that's on the jack-o'-lantern goes off, and then you see the light coming from the inside.
And you'll notice there are jack-o'-lanterns in a lot of the crime scenes. It's a motif. The kids carrying it. Of course, it's Halloween. They're carving pumpkins. Becomes kind of a motif.
You'd think that there'd be more trick-or-treaters out.
There really weren't that many in this suburbia. They shot this movie in 20 days, which is unheard of. John Carpenter got paid $10,000. Jamie Lee Curtis got $8,000.
Wow. Jamie Lee Curtis, the daughter of the Scream Queen in Psycho.
Janet Leigh, which is how she got the part. They thought it would be a fun way to promote the movie, saying we have the daughter from Psycho. And I guess Mike Myers is 21 in this, right? That's how the math would work out. Yeah. They're also, if you notice, the movie they're watching is the original Thing, which John Carter redoes in 82.
Yeah. Goes full circle.
The Mask. We can't not talk about this iconic mask. These people have no money. He bought a William Shatner Captain Kirk mask for $2, spray painted it white, and just opened up the eyes a little. And
teased out the hair.
And it's the most frightening fucking thing. Like, such a simple thing.
That's the best mask that's ever been put on.
I feel like this is the birth of like the masked killers. Like then you get Jason, then you get the Scream guy. I mean, Freddy is not a mask, but I know Texas Chainsaw Massacre had kind of a leather face mask. But I feel like this is also the
this
birth.
One's better.
Yeah, I feel like
this one. I mean, if when they light it right and he's got the dark eyes, I mean that's fucking. It's just great. It freaks me out still.
And there is that detail where you find out he stole it from a hardware store. Where that's why the robbery was there, where the alarm was going off, and when they stopped there. But yeah, outside of just like his aim gets really bad when he's trying to kill Laurie. I don't know. He's pretty effective as a slasher.
Well, here's another fun fact. Yeah. And you'll see it in Halloween 3, but this was originally supposed to be an anthology series.
Oh.
Where every year they'd give it to a different director and they would tell a different Halloween story. So Halloween 1 and 2 are related, but Halloween 3 is like the Curse of the Witch.
Oh.
And it has nothing to do with this. Like,
isn't the curse supposed to be what cursed Mike Myers to be a murderer?
I mean, there's like ways you could like weave it all together, but I mean, it's very supernatural. It's about this like evil guy that's trying to poison kids on Halloween by if you wear the mask that he's selling, you die.
Oh,
and it's a completely for what all intents and purposes not related. And they were going to continue doing this anthology thing, and then they decided, nope, that didn't make any money. Let's go back to Mike
Myers. Yeah, I know.
Because Jason had gotten really popular by that point. They were like, oh, we got to ramp this back up.
So by 88, they put out the fourth movie, Return.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting thing to talk about, too, that the fact that a rival slasher comes out that's just as big in a lot of ways.
Right. Yeah, Jason was the main... Halloween was the impetus for Jason, and then Jason's popularity was the impetus for Halloween to come back and go way over the top with because Jason's whole thing was these over the top kills, and Halloween, the first one wasn't really about that. The second one ramps up in terms of its gore because it's made in the 80s, but then once Jason comes out, they're like, oh, we got to ramp this up and now do these crazy over the top kills as well. So they both influence each other.
I got another story. So by the time Halloween hit TV, it was 1981, but the movie was too short. He needed to add about 15 minutes to get it to fit in the slot with commercials. So while they're filming Halloween 2, they film additional material and add it to Halloween, filmed in 1981 for the television broadcast of Halloween.
Mm-hmm.
But I haven't.
And then they add a scene where he interacts with Laurie as a kid,
or Michael. Yes, there's a flashback of Dr. Loomis actually talking to Michael when he's 6 and he's just sitting there staring off. And
well, then they add that too, and I think the extended scenes too is they show Laurie as a kid visiting him.
Oh, and to make it that's why did they have to make them related? That doesn't make any sense.
That's part of part two is the whole thing.
The parents, both of their kids one's dead, the other one's in a sanitarium. So maybe they had another kid, or maybe they got remarried. I think what makes more sense, they got divorced and they had kids with other people.
Oh,
that became the through line until part 6, and even H2O and Resurrection was the through line was he came back to kill the rest of his family. So he came back to kill Laurie. Then in the part 4 and 5, Laurie has a niece that he's going after. He's trying to kill his entire line.
Whatever happened to his parents? Do they know?
That I don't know.
I'm gonna have to go and watch all these movies now. I know they're not great.
They get considerably worse as time goes along.
Yeah.
Part 4 is pretty decent from what
I heard the H2O and the 2018
Halloween
one is
the good ones.
Yeah, those are good. Yeah, those are good. They get real weird. They start going into he's part of this cult and he had the curse on him and all this shit.
See, the backstory we got is enough. You don't have to edit anymore. It's perfect.
Simpler is better.
Simple.
It's like when you do anything. It's like when you do Alien or Jaws.
Yep.
The scary stuff is the unknown.
Yep.
And when you unpack the unknown, that's when it gets less scary.
The less you see
now,
it.
Did John Carpenter ever make another Halloween movie?
He did not.
No.
He only did
it's not even the original guy introducing this shit into it.
It just got a life of its own and went on to different directors. Rob Zombie being one of them. I don't even know if I'd watch this.
Yeah.
I don't know. It was kind of fun, but I don't know. If you're a real Halloween. See, I was never a big Halloween, I didn't really think, I didn't know all the lore and I don't know. And so I was cool. They're remaking a 70s movie again with Rob Zombie at it. He's going to throw some crazy shit. And that's exactly what he did. But a lot of people don't like it. So.
Yeah, he Rob Zombied it.
He definitely Rob Zombied it.
He more trailer park trash type shit.
Yeah, which is all his movies. But man, iconic, lives on in pop culture, created this franchise, and it's good. All right, should we wrap it up? Final thoughts? Give me a score.
Rate it and rank it, and then I have a follow up question or two after, so we'll start with the rating and ranking. But I guess I'll start. There's definitely some stupid ass shit. There's bad acting in this movie, and there's some bad shots. We dissected a lot of the kind of some. I mean, some of the stuff's actually god awful. Some of the acting's really bad.
Yeah.
Anytime the friends come on scene, especially Annie, it's not good acting.
Yeah,
right.
She's a little much.
But this movie gets a lot of things done right, and you can't ignore the influence it had on the industry, right? So I think that inevitably becomes a factor in my personal rating of the movie. So while there's a lot of stupid shit and characters make dumb decisions, it's got that vibe, man. It's got that thing, and it's a simple movie, and some people might watch it and go, that's it. But if you really dissect it, I think there's a lot of like great shit in here, and one of the all-time great directors in this movie. So I think this is a 9 out of 10.
Wow. All right. Yeah, no, I think, like just you said, it's culturally significant. What he has done with the amount of money he was given is remarkable. It shows you the talents of everyone coming together with the song, with the music, his directing. I would give it an 8 out of 8.5. Absolutely 8.5. There are a lot of themes, like we talked about, like horrors coming to suburbia, themes people had not thought about, sexuality and sexual repression and the final girl thing and the mask and all of it is fucking iconic. So, and I think it still holds up. Absolutely. Rugs.
I think that there's some flimsiness to it here and there. I think that the strength of it is John Carpenter's music and his direction, and just the overall stalking and the fear response that you get for someone invading your home and in doing that. So that on those level it works, but a lot of things like with the female actors or just the teenagers in general and logic things that happen, like with the police and this and that, it's that could have been done better. So I'm gonna go with 8. Just an 8.
Did we like Jamie Lee Curtis? I thought she
was fine. Yeah,
this
I like
movie very well in this. Yeah,
I think she's actually pretty good in the movie.
Yeah.
You can tell she's a novice, but her character is actually, other than some of the dumb decisions at the end, she acts pretty normal.
Yeah, she's like a likable person.
Yeah.
She looks good with kids.
Yeah. She doesn't get into trouble. She's a good girl.
Right.
And she's responsible. Yeah. And it's a good dichotomy because her friends are just fucking assholes.
That's why they die.
Yeah.
You're going to fucking strangers' homes, you're going to get killed.
Well, that Ruggs's feedback actually leads to my next question here. And we've reviewed a few John Carpenter films on our show and also talked about some of them in tournaments here. But would love to get your guys' perspective on, is this John Carpenter's most, what do we call it?
The magnum opus.
Magnum opus, or his best movie, or his most influential? Like, where do you rank this amongst John Carpenter classics?
He's got so many good movies. It's hard to do that.
Right. That's why it's a great question.
I don't know if it's his best film. I think The Thing is better.
The Thing is very good.
But I think that The Thing is a one and done. This spawned a whole entire franchise. It's been around for a long time. It's like they're making figures of this shit, and you can get the masks still to this day. You can order the mask.
It makes him like it's
got more impact.
Horror icon too. He gets put into that category because
I think The Thing is is probably one of his best films. But I also think that it doesn't have it's more of an unknown film. It kind of flies under the radar. This one obviously it's got more cachet.
Let me build on that because I completely agree with you. I think of the movies I've seen, I haven't seen all his movies, but The Thing to me is a masterpiece. The body horror and the tension, and
there's nothing bad in that movie. Really,
no, there's nothing.
Really
bad. There's nothing stupid. It's great. It's fucking great.
Yeah.
The reason why I think The Thing is better than Halloween. That said, the reason why I give Halloween more credit is The Thing is a remake.
That's true.
Oh, that's right. As we saw in
the remake of the movie we just saw.
Yeah,
Thing. While Halloween, literally, like I mentioned earlier, it was just, hey, we need you to make a movie about a killer on Halloween. Go figure it out.
So he pulled this thing out of his ass and it ended up being like this huge deal.
Yes, exactly. What I really appreciate about John Carpenter films, though, is his attention to detail with vibes and music.
Yeah.
Like movies like They Live, Big Trouble in Little China, The Thing, Escape from New York, Halloween. You throw on any soundtrack from any of those movies, and you go, "Fuck, I'm right there. I know exactly what movie I'm watching. I feel he can convey through music exactly how you should be feeling through each of his movies." So I think and you throw in like the way he shoots his movies and the choices he makes. I think he's a fucking legend director, and I've really grown to appreciate him through this podcast.
Absolutely. No, you make a lot of good arguments for Halloween. Not only that it's original, but what he does with the limited budget.
I think the thing is, let me just clarify. I think the thing is his magnum opus.
Okay.
But
okay.
I give Halloween more credit for its originality.
Yeah, it has to be mentioned that
I do love Big Trouble and They Live are.
Well, those are great movies.
Fantastic.
Too.
Escape from New York.
I've never seen his newest movie, which is The Ward.
Okay.
Which I don't know. I heard that was decent.
2010 was that was when that.
Oh, that was a while ago.
Yeah. But of course, this is, these guys, when they're younger, they're hungrier, when they're faced with have to being creative because of budgetary restraints. This is when creatives like this shine. And he clearly does that in Halloween. Man, I don't know. I mean, I think I would agree that The Thing maybe is his magnum opus.
I love Escape from New York, though, as well.
So before this, he does Assault on Precinct 13, which I kind of want to watch.
I want to rewatch that because I've seen the new one, but I haven't seen this one.
And then before that, his first movie it has a connection to another movie we love. Dark Star is
an inspired Alien.
Yes, it's a sci-fi comedy written by Dan O'Bannon. Dan O'Bannon goes on to write Aliens. Essentially, this was his one idea, and he was just like, "What if I just do this without the comedy? Make it like a scary movie." So there's the connection to Alien. But yeah, that's from 74. But
he loves living in the horror action. It's like The Fog is a horror movie. So a lot of the other, but then some of these are action movies.
Yeah, like Big Trouble is like almost a comedy action. It's very, very strange, but he gets it to work.
Live is sci-fi like action.
Have you seen John Carpenter's Vampires?
No,
that's a pretty badass movie.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's from 1998. But the fact that the guy writes, that he scores the music, also, it's all very impressive. And I love the Carpenter. I know he loves talking about his project still. He's great.
Well, speaking of, last question before we move on to the next segment. John Carpenter, did he create the most iconic horror villain?
So I did want to mention my kind of love for Freddy Krueger. Why? Because I was into comics. He has Wolverine claws. He's got personality. He's got one-liners, right? He's quippy. And the fact that he gets you in your sleep is fucking terrifying. There's no escape.
Wes Craven writing that shit is pretty fucking badass.
There's no escape from a guy. You have to sleep.
That is a cool premise.
So he's got lines. Jason doesn't talk, right? Does Jason talk?
Jason does not talk.
Yeah. So none of the other guys talk, and he gets to have some
It's him and Chucky that talk.
Yeah. So, but again, I'm going to say the top three is Mike Myers, Freddy, and Jason. I don't know who is the most iconic. Mike is close to being up there.
Well, I know, Ruggs, you don't necessarily consider the Universal monsters like horror icons per se.
No, I feel like they're monsters more than horror things, but you can make a horror movie with any of them, right?
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Go ahead, Ruggs.
Are you talking about the big three, like slasher people?
Well, anything. I mean, you can throw in, New Age. You could throw in Chucky. You could throw in Ghostface, Hellraiser. Whatever you want.
I don't know. I mean, I feel like
Ghostface from Psycho.
Ghostface. I think that, I grew up more of it in the shadow of Jason than Mike Myers.
Mm-hmm.
For some reason, he was the more popular one. I don't know why. Maybe it's growing up in the 80s where Jason was hitting and a little bit more, and it was more silly and out there. There are crazier fun. There were more fun movies, I guess.
Yeah.
Then the Mike Myers were like actually scary and psychological and serious. So, I don't know. I feel like, and the Freddy movies, were terrifying. And then they started to get silly too. Yeah. They all kind of get silly.
Get silly.
Yes.
At a certain point, they become like a parody of themselves. So I don't know. I think Mike Myers is the only one that has the integrity still.
Yeah.
I as a kid, I think the one that always came to mind for me outside of a Universal monster was Jason. But then as I started to do my research, I was like, oh, Michael Myers is the one. But there's arguments to be made for all three. There's arguments to be made for it, even Leatherface or Norman Bates.
Yeah.
So he created something special, right? I think Michael Myers is, as far as like the most iconic. Everyone's going to have their own perspective. I guess I'll default to the one I thought of as a kid, which was Jason, because I thought the hockey mask was just a hockey mask and machete. I thought was always just badass.
Yeah,
the machete's a big knife,
almost too big,
and you got the and that's kind of creepy too.
That was Friday the 13th established that?
It was, yeah.
Oh, at the camp.
Yeah, and
right,
I think also the fact that behind the mask is like this disfigured face.
Yeah, but
zombie.
Freddy Krueger's origin always, I thought, was fucked up.
Oh, that's a fucking fucked up origin.
His mom, who was a nun working in an asylum, gets raped by all the mental patients. That's fucked up.
Yeah, but then also he was a child molester as an adult.
Oh.
And then he got burned by the town.
Right. Okay. And then now he haunts them.
And then he haunts people in their dreams.
Yeah. So the dream thing always got me. So I was like a big Freddy guy. I remember trying to find, there's comic books. For a hot second, I was into like Freddy Krueger, black and white horror comics. I don't know why. I thought he was just crazy. But I mean, and I got to check out some of this modern horror. I know there's a lot of great stuff coming out now. It's huge now, obviously.
Well, Barbarian's no good, according to Russ.
I saw that. It's all right. I mean, the people make stupid decisions, but you got others.
It's fine. Yeah. You know, I'm horror averse.
I just want to piss off the person. What was it? Keegan?
Keegan. Yes. That was Keegan's favorite movie. I mean, like, there's these Smile movies. Those trailers are fucking kind of frightening and unnerving.
Those are weird.
Yeah, so there's a lot of good stuff out there. All right. That's a great pick, though. Whoever came up, I really enjoyed.
It was a collab. It was me
a
and
collab,
Russ.
yeah. It's perfect because it is, like, a birth of so many things. So perfect for the Halloween
iconic
season.
movie and fits the theme of the time of year, and we never do that kind of stuff, so.